Students, now we shall learn the third stanza of the poem. We have finished the first and second stanza in the previous class. We shall read the poem now. The second ship turned towards the east, over the sea, quaking sea, and the wind hunted it like the beast, to angle in captivity. Okay? Quaking means, what's the meaning of quaking? Quaking is trembling or shaking. Trembling or shaking or with a fear. And the next word which is difficult here we say captivity. Captivity means, what's the meaning of captivity? Captivity means imprisonment. Okay. So what is the poet telling the third stanza? In the third stanza, the poet explains the second ship. He is telling about the second ship, where it moved. The second ship turned towards the east. The first ship went towards the west, it is written, and the second ship went towards the east. Then what happened? Over the sea and trembling the sea. This time the nature was not favorable for them. The first ship when it moved, the nature was very favorable and it was not that very struggling the ship. But this time it was very quietly. This time it was very not very favorable for the ship. It became unfriendly and frightening. It became unfriendly and frightening. And the wind hunted it like a beast. So you know which animal is a beast, no? So the wind was hunting the ship like a beast. So in the third stanza, the writer is talking about the which ship? The second ship. It went towards the east, over the sea and trembling the sea. This time the wind was not favorable for the ship. It became unfriendly and frightening, and the wind hunted it like a beast. The writer is written here. Now the next line. The third ship drove towards the north. So the third ship where it went? Towards the north. Over the sea, the darkening sea, but no breath of the wind came forth, and the decks shone frostily. So, it is written their second ship take the other side, that is east. Okay, and also the poet tells that the third ship have a negative thing which is shown here: darkening sea, breath of wind, and Deccan shone frostily. So it was very tough time. The third ship drove towards the north, over the sea, darkening sea, but no breath of wind came forth, and deck shone frostily. It was very icy and very cold. Next line. The northern sky rose and back over the proud unfruitful sea. East and west, the ship came back happily. So both the ship came back happily, the first and second, which went the east and west. They both came back. We don't know whether they came back happily or unhappily, but the writer says that both the east and west, the ship came back happily or unhappily. But the third went wide and far. But the third ship went wide and far into an unforgiving sea, under a fire-spilling star, and it was rigid for a long journey. So the writer says that the last stanza of the poem, the first and second ship came back, but the last one never came back. It met into a calamity. We can imagine that. It is not given exactly where it has gone, which place it is gone, but we can imagine that it might have been met into calamity. The second take to the other side, that is east. It also sails away into the other land. Okay. So the last ship never came back, which is the third ship. Okay. So we can say that once again we will say the first ship. First ship, where did it go? The first ship turned towards the west to a rich country. It is written in the poem. Okay, the writer says the first ship went towards the west to a rich country. And what were the condition at that time? Sea. What were the condition of the sea? Windy. It was very windy. It is written here. And the running sea, wild, possessed by the wind. The ship was possessed like an evil spirit. It was possessed by the wind. And when the first ship went, what happened to the ship? What happened to the ship? Where did it go? Ship came back from a rich country. The writer says at the last stanza of the poem, the writer says that though the first ship went to the east, the wind was possessed by the ship. But at last he says it came back happily or unhappily, we don't know. But it came back from a rich country. Okay, now we can take the second ship. Second ship, where did it go? It turned towards the east. Where did the second ship go? It turned towards the east. And what happened at that time? Okay, what were the condition of the sea at that time when the second ship went? At that time, the sea was stormy. The quaking sea, wind hunted it like a beast. So when the second ship was sailing, the wind was very stormy, wind was there, and also it hunted like a beast. And what happened to the ship? Whether it came back happily or unhappily, the writer says the second ship also came back. Okay, and now the third ship. What happened to the third ship? The third ship, where did it go? It drove towards the north. The third ship drove towards the north. Northern sky rose high and black. What was the condition of what was the condition of the sea at that time? So the northern sky rose high and black, went wide and far into an unforgiving sea under the fire-spilling star. It is written that much exaggeration in the poet is written here. Okay, what are the poet writing here? We don't know what happened to that ship. It is nothing mentioned here. It never came back. So we can imagine that it met with some calamity. Drove towards the north. The third ship sailed towards the north. Northern sky rose high and black. The wind was very heavy. And also went wide and far. It went wide and far into an unforgiving sea. It might deep into the sea it went under the fire-spilling star. Under the fire-spilling star. It is written just like that. And what happened? What happened to the ship? Rigid for a long journey, it is written. Never came back. That's the end of the poem. Okay. So, the wind takes the second ship into the land where it held captive. It didn't hold the second ship and took it to the dangerous and unsafely safe destination. Both the ship came back. The first and second ship came back. They safely landed, and also the third ship never came back. That's the conclusion of the poem. Okay. So now the homework is you learn the 8 lines of the poem, read the poem. There are very difficult words are here. Write it down in the copy and learn it. Learn the question answer and the given exercises. Okay. Thank you students for listening.